The fear that builds you. They say fearless means having no fear. Nietzsche would laugh at that. To him, fear isn't weakness. It's potential, untapped, uncomfortable, and screaming to be used. Because the ones who grow the most are the ones who dare to stay in the fire. So here is the real question. What if your fear isn't a sign to stop, but a signal to begin? Let's find out. Why Nietzsche? Why now? You're not here for fluff. You're not looking for another 5-step formula to find yourself. You're here because something inside you refuses to settle. You've felt it, the restless edge, the quiet voice that whispers, "There's more to you than this." But fear keeps showing up. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. Nietzsche faced that same storm and chose to walk straight into it. He didn't promise comfort. He promised power, not over others, but over yourself. This video is not about avoiding fear. It's about using it, mastering it, and transforming it into your advantage. In the next 25 minutes, you'll learn the mindset that forged Nietzsche's resilience, the tools that modern psychology now confirms, and how you can turn setbacks into strength starting today. If you're tired of being ruled by fear and ready to rule your own mind, keep watching. This isn't motivation. This is transformation. Philosophical foundation. A war within. Friedrich Nietzsche didn't write for comfort. He wrote to disrupt, to challenge, to ignite, and above all, to wake you up. Most people live like passengers in their own story, following scripts they never wrote, craving safety, fearing pain. But Nietzsche saw comfort as the enemy, because growth doesn't happen where it's soft, it happens in the fire. His philosophy is not a checklist, it's a battlefield, and at the heart of it stands the will to power. Forget domination. Nietzsche's will to power is about expansion. It's the inner force that drives you to evolve, to transcend, to turn adversity into energy. Think of it as your psychological core. It's what keeps a child trying after they fall. What pushes a creator through rejection? What makes you come back after defeat? Not because it's easy, but because something in you refuses to stay down. Modern psychology calls this agency, the belief that your actions shape your life. Nietzsche takes it further. He says this will to rise is what makes you human. But power without direction can destroy. So comes the second pillar, Amor Fati, Latin for love of fate, not tolerate it, not get over it, love it. This isn't spiritual detachment. This is radical ownership. When something breaks you, Nietzsche doesn't ask you to numb the pain. He asks you to use it. You lost a job. You were betrayed, rejected. Good. Now shape it. Turn it. Build with it. You don't have to enjoy the pain, but you have to stop resisting it. Because resistance is where suffering multiplies. Here's the move. Turn why me into what now. That's Amor Fati. Psychologist Viktor Frankl echoed this after surviving Auschwitz. Suffering ceases to be. Suffering the moment it finds meaning. Nietzsche already knew that, and he pushed it even further. Now the final piece. The Übermensch, or overman, not a superhero, not a tyrant. The Übermensch is someone who breaks free from borrowed values and writes their own. Who doesn't follow? Who doesn't conform? Who lives by design, not by default? Sound familiar? Think about how often you act for approval. You stay quiet in meetings. You shrink your truth in relationships. You follow a safe career path even though something in you is dying. Nietzsche called this herd morality. The pressure to play nice, to not offend, to survive by blending in. But blending in kills what makes you. Nietzsche says, step out, not in rebellion, but in responsibility. Forge your own rules. Craft your own meaning. Live with weight, because when everyone is drifting, the one who walks with direction becomes unshakable. Let's bring this to ground level. A woman named Claire. She's smart, creative, capable, but trapped in a job that drains her. She knows it doesn't align with her values, but it's safe, predictably approved, until one day, she breaks. Not loudly, quietly. She begins asking deeper questions. What do I stand for? What do I want to build? She journals, reflects, risks, and eventually, she creates something real, something hers, not because she followed a plan, but because she followed herself. That's Nietzsche's Übermensch. Someone who stops repeating and starts creating. Nietzsche's ideas aren't metaphors. They're a mental operating system, will to power. You are responsible for your energy. Amor Fati. You are responsible for your story. Übermensch. You are responsible for your meaning. When you stop outsourcing those things, something changes. You stop flinching. You stop asking. You start acting. Here's a question to end this part. If you looked at everything that's ever happened to you and believed it was necessary to build who you're becoming, what would that free you to do? Think on that, because next, we move from foundation to application. Let's take these ideas into the real world and start building your fearless life, one decision at a time. Turning philosophy into power. 1. Fear of judgment. The social cage. You hesitate before posting that project. You soften your opinions in meetings. You smile when you want to speak up. Why? Because deep down, many of us fear being seen, and worse, being judged. Nietzsche called this her morality. It's the silent agreement to play small, to fit in, to avoid rocking the boat. The herd doesn't want leaders. It wants comfort. It wants sameness. But here's the truth. Judgment is unavoidable. You will be misunderstood, criticized, mocked. The question is, will you let that stop you? Psychologist Albert Ellis coined the term approval addiction. It's the tendency to rate ourselves based on others' opinions. This mindset weakens your will to power. It keeps you afraid of your own voice. Nietzsche's answer: be willing to be alone. Mentally, emotionally, ideologically. He writes, the higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. Translation: if you want to rise, stop asking permission from those who won't. Try this. Next time you feel the urge to censor yourself, pause. Ask, is this fear keeping me safe or small? Then speak anyway. One truth at a time. That's how you build the Übermensch inside you. 2. Career paralysis. The illusion of the safe path. You land the job, steady income, promotions, lined up, but your soul is silent. You tell yourself it's smart. That risk is irresponsible. That dreams are for later. Nietzsche would call this slave morality, a system of thinking where you obey not because it's good, but because it's easier. In his world, mediocrity isn't neutral. It's corrosive. Playing it safe too long numbs the will to power. It makes your potential rust. Modern psychology backs this up. Existential anxiety is real. Studies show that when people feel disconnected from meaning, they experience more stress, depression, and burnout, even in good jobs. So what's the move? No, not quitting tomorrow. Nietzsche was intense, but not reckless. He believed in self-overcoming. That means taking full responsibility for your path. If your work isn't aligned, start realigning. Schedule time for what scares you. Wake up an hour earlier to work on your thing. Ask questions others avoid. Move. Experiment. Risk the embarrassment. Because here's the thing. Your fear of change is usually just a fear of beginning. Try this. Write a regret letter from your future self. Describe what you didn't do because you were afraid. Then read it out loud. Feel the weight. Now use it to move. 3. Rejection and loss. The true test of Amor Fati. You got ghosted or fired. or left behind, and now you're spiraling. Nietzsche saw rejection not as punishment, but as purification, stripping away illusions, making space for transformation. This is where Amor Fati hits hardest. To love fate is easy when life rewards you, but when it guts you, that's the test. That's where you earn it. Think about this. Almost every great work, innovation, or breakthrough came after loss, after humiliation, after devastation. Why? Because pain breaks routine. It opens a crack, and through the crack, something new can be born. Psychologist Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust, echoed this truth. Suffering ceases to be suffering the moment it finds meaning. Amor Fati is about finding meaning in every punch. It's about turning the pain into narrative power. Try this. Next time something goes wrong, ask not why me, but what now? Then write it down. Not as a complaint, but as a training log. This happened. This hurt. This shaped me. Over time, you'll stop resisting pain. You'll start using it for identity crisis, becoming the Übermensch you've grown. But now, you feel lost, detached from your old life, unsure of your next move. Welcome to the liminal zone, the space between who you were and who you're becoming. Nietzsche loved this place. He saw it as sacred, because only here, when the old scaffolding collapses, can the real self be sculpted. But it's terrifying. You question your relationships, your values, your direction. You might even feel like you're faking everything. That's not weakness. That's the sound of your shell cracking. Psychologists call this identity dissonance. It's what happens when your inner growth outpaces your external roles. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary for true development. Nietzsche's Übermensch doesn't emerge fully formed. He's forged, refined, rewritten, again and again. Try this. Create your own code. 5 principles you choose to live by. Not borrowed, not imposed. Yours. Write them down, then test them in action. Every time you live your code, you become more real, more solid, more you. Let's zoom out. You've just seen how Nietzsche's blueprint applies to social fear, career stagnation, personal loss, and identity transformation. This isn't theory. It's blood, sweat, and perspective. It's a new lens on your fear, not as a signal to retreat, but as an invitation to evolve. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." This video is your why, and we're not done yet. Because up next, we'll build your fearless living toolkit, daily rituals, mental frameworks, and questions you'll come back to for life. Get ready. You're not just learning how to think differently. You're about to live differently. Let's go. The Fearless Living Toolkit. You've seen the map. Now it's time to walk. Because philosophy, no matter how powerful, means nothing unless it lives inside you. And fearless living isn't a theory. It's a discipline. A daily decision to move forward when fear says stop. So here are 5 tools, each one forged from Nietzsche's fire, grounded in real life, backed by modern psychology, crafted to help you shift from hesitation to authorship. 1. Amor Fati reframe. Setbacks happen. Plans unravel. People disappoint you. You feel the pull to ask, why now? Why me? But here's the shift. Amor Fati doesn't ask questions. It declares purpose. At the end of each day, pause. Think of one thing that stung. A delay, a conflict, a rejection. Then write this. This happened, and I will use it. Now ask yourself, what can this teach me? Where is the seed of power in this moment? Let's say you lost a deal. Instead of spiraling, you sit down and write, lost client. This happened. I will use it to refine my pitch. That simple line breaks the loop of self-pity. It rewires your brain from victim to builder. You're not escaping pain. you're converting it. One sentence a day. That's how the mind starts learning to love fate. Not because it's pretty, but because it's yours too. The fear inventory. Fear hides in silence. It grows in shadows. The only way to disarm it is to expose it. Take a sheet of paper. Write down 3 fears you've been avoiding. Be honest. Don't dress them up. Now ask, which of these has the most control over me? Choose one, and take one small step toward it today. Not next week, not later today. Afraid of public speaking? Record a 1-minute voice note, just for you. Terrified of asking for what you want? Draft the email. Hit send tomorrow. It's not about massive leaps. It's about movement. Motion is the proof of power. Every step you take becomes evidence that you're alive and in charge. You don't have to crush your fear. Just confront it again and again until it gets smaller and you get louder. 3. Code of the Übermensch. Most people live by borrowed rules, inherited beliefs, external scripts. But Nietzsche's Übermensch writes their own code and lives it. Set aside 30 minutes. Turn off the noise. Open a blank page. Write down 5 values you choose to live by. Not the ones you think you should believe. The ones you feel in your bones. Then for each, define one daily action that proves it. Courage gives. Speak your truth once a day, even when your voice shakes. Depth is. Refuse small talk once a day. Ask a real question instead. Discipline. Keep one non-negotiable no matter how tired you are. Print your code. Post it where you see it. This isn't decoration. It's alignment. When fear comes knocking, and it will, your code becomes your compass. You don't react. You respond. Because you've already decided who you are. 4. The eternal recurrence question. Nietzsche posed a brutal test. What if you had to live this exact day over and over for eternity? Would you still do what you're about to do? It's not a moral question. It's a mirror. It shows you what matters, what needs to change, what's worth it. Before you agree to the next task, the next yes, the next escape, pause. Would I repeat this choice forever? If the answer is yes, lean in with full energy. If it's no, step back and ask, then why now? This question won't give you peace, but it will give you direction. And in a distracted world, that's power. Apply it in the big stuff, career, relationships, but also in the micro choices, how you speak to others, how you speak to yourself. That's where your life gets shaped. 5. The power ritual. There are days when fear floods your chest, when your heart races, your hands shake, your mind screams. This is when you don't think, you anchor. Stand up, shoulders back, eyes forward. Say aloud, calmly but firmly, this is my path. I do not run. Then move. Walk into the meeting. Pick up the phone. Hit record. Not to endure it, to own it. Repetition builds association. When you train your body to respond with power, not panic, your mind follows. Over time, this ritual becomes a trigger, not for fear, but for fire. The weekly Nietzsche check-in. Every 7 days, grab a journal. Answer these 5. Where did I play small this week? When did I speak truth, even when it cost me? What pain am I still resisting? What fear am I avoiding that I secretly need to face? If I loved this exact life, what would I do differently? You don't need perfect answers. You need honest ones. This check-in realigns your direction, sharpens your will, and reminds you, you're not here to perform. You're here to become. Let's get brutally clear. None of this is magic. These tools take presence, repetition, sweat. But here's the deal. Fear doesn't vanish. It loses power because you move anyway. That's the game. That's the shift. Nietzsche didn't promise peace. He offered fire. And fire, when used with purpose, doesn't destroy. It reforges. So take one tool. Any one. Start today. Try it. Watch what happens. Because fearless living isn't a state you wait for. It's a structure you build. And every time you choose power over paralysis, you prove one thing to yourself. You are not the product of your past. You are the architect of what comes next. Become who you are. There's a moment in every journey where knowledge becomes choice. This is that moment. You've seen Nietzsche's truth, not as a theory, but as a challenge, a call, a confrontation, a mirror. So now, ask yourself, what would it look like to stop avoiding fear? What would it feel like to live by your own code? What would your life become if you loved it exactly as it is and still demanded more? Because here's what Nietzsche knew and what you're now starting to feel. You are not here to be comfortable. You are here to become. Become what? The person who acts, not delays. The person who speaks, not hides. The person who stands when everyone else sits in silence. You will not always be ready. You will not always be brave. But you will always have a choice to obey fear or to master it, to surrender or to sculpt, to repeat the old story or write a new one. Let this be the moment you choose creation over avoidance, discomfort over drifting, power over passivity. Let this be the day your life turns from reaction into authorship, because everything you need is already inside you, and everything that scares you is the proof. Fear is not your enemy, it's your invitation. Now it's your turn. Pick one tool, one question, one step. Write your code. Take the risk. Reframe the pain. Say what you really mean. Do the thing that calls you. And when fear whispers, what if you fail? You answer, then I'll rise again. Stronger. Because that's what fearless living means. Not the absence of fear, but the refusal to bow to it. You are not broken. You are becoming. And this is just the beginning. If this video woke something up in you, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm you want more. Subscribe for weekly tools and deep dives. And in the comments, tell us, what fear are you facing right now? And what will you do with it? We're building a community here. Not just thinkers, but doers, builders, warriors of mind and will. So share your step, support others, stay sharp, and remember, in a world full of noise, comfort, and conformity, you don't need permission to rise. You just need to decide. Now go, live powerfully, and become who you are.